Let's talk about maintenance. So, starting with the 997.2 generation of the 911, they became quite a bit more technologically advanced over what you had seen earlier with the DFI engines, the water-cooled transfer cases, or front diffs, I'm sorry. More stuff that we have to keep up with. So this car, we had no record of the 4-year, 40,000 mile service on it. The car is now at 6 years old. This is a 991.2 Turbo S. So the Turbo S comes with all technology on it. That's what makes it, part of what makes it an S. So we can see this is the PDCC reservoir. So even though the car has electronic power steering, it still has a Pentosan-based system on it for the dynamic chassis control. So this reservoir has the filter incorporated into it, and per Porsche these filters are only good for 6 years. Also the life of the fluid does have a breakdown point, the additives and all that in the fluid, so that at 6 years you are required by Porsche, doesn't matter mileage, 6 years you're required to replace this PDCC reservoir, the reservoir, yeah. So this is your pump here, this is your reservoir. Also at 6 years on these cars, regardless of mileage, Porsche says to do the belt. So we're gonna do the belt, because like I was saying, we're doing a 6-year service on this one, and we're gonna incorporate the 4-year because he doesn't have any record of his 4-year service being done. So we're gonna do his air filter, which is here. We're doing the PDCC reservoir, we're doing the drive belt. You can see, and people wonder why these are so costly. Yes, there's not a lot of parts here. Yes, it's not very impossible to get a part, which I'm going to hear from everybody. But you can see the amount of room, the work we have to go through to get into here, pulling the intercoolers off. This has already got the heat shields removed from it. So we can see, we get these little cubby holes to work with our spark plugs here. This customer is going to be putting an aftermarket exhaust system on here, so we will be pulling this exhaust off while the car is apart here and giving them a discount on the labor there for handling that. And then we're also going to do the BMC air filter while the car is apart. So you can see we got on this side, you can see the same thing. This is what we're dealing with. So here we have our front diff, being that it's a turbo with the all-wheel drive. So in these you have two different compartments. At the rear you have your clutch packs, and then at the front you have your gears. So the gear lube is due at 12 years. Your clutch packs are due every 6 years, regardless of mileage per Porsche, as I was stating earlier. So it's pretty cool. These things are, for a front diff, having worked on cars since like my first DSM, or a couple DSMs, you know, they completely all-wheel drive, but just all completely mechanical differential, no cooling, no electronics, anything. So it's kind of crazy seeing where you're at today with all this stuff. So, and then we have, and we won't be able to see it, we have the PDK. On the Gen on 991, they switched the service intervals over to 12 years on the PDK for a non-GT car. The 997 were 7 years, I believe, on the PDK, 6 or 7, I believe it's 7 years on the PDK, and then you got 12 years on your gear lube. So this is still okay on that. He's still got time on that one. Obviously, if it's a car that's modded and you beat on it a lot, it's not going to hurt you at all to do that filter and that fluid more often than what Porsche recommends. So this is just the Porsche recommendation on it. So one of the other things I wanted to show you guys, on the 991.2 generation Turbo S, they added this additional muffler to the intake system. So you've got this extra pipe, you got this whole, this is a muffler, this is to quiet everything down off the bypass valve. So if you're not switching over to like the 3-inch system, intake system, the DO88 system or something like that, one of the things we've done is switch over to the .1 intake tube. So you eliminate this extra muffler in here, and it helps you get more of that the whooshing and the turbo sounds that people like. So our brake flush is due at minimum every 2 years, 20,000 miles per Porsche. I'm not really worried about the water saturation unless you're going to do it sooner. It should be done every 2 years. Obviously, if you're going to track the car, it should be done substantially more often than that. I recommend, and Porsche Motorsports recommends after every track outing, like after every weekend or whatever. but at minimum at 6 months, every 6 months. And you need to switch over to a different fluid, a more high temp fluid. The Porsche fluid is really good for street fluid, but clearly there's aftermarket companies that make a fluid that's designed specifically for track use, high temp use. Starting with 9X1 generation cars, we got 2 pollen filters now. We've got a pre-pollen or a pre-filter that's under the front battery cover, next to the battery. So you've got a box here. So we've got a filter in there. And then we can see our main pollen filter is under the dashboard. Under this cover. Something I see overlooked all the time. Whenever you're doing a service or a service is getting done, as a customer, as a tech, we need to make sure these front radiators and AC condensers get blown out. If they don't, which I've seen this happen, they will get completely packed full of leaves and debris, and then that blocks all your airflow through your front radiators and through the condenser, and then when that stuff starts to break down, it causes the radiators to deteriorate along with them. We want to make sure we always clean and lubricate all these sills, also all the rubber sills, sunroof sills, check all your drains, lube the door catches or the tips. I don't know why they call them that. And then we are back up and running. Left lane is for high-speed traffic and passing only.